This video is to show you how to replace the rear brake pads and the rotor on a 2009 to 2014 Hyundai Sonata. Tools we need for this would be 2 jack stands, a car jack, some type of a long bar, a hammer, a ratchet 21mm, 2 19mm with another ratchet, unless you have some type of ratchet that will hold a 19mm nut. Then we have a 14mm, a long 12mm socket, and a 10mm socket, torque wrench, channel locks, some big flat screwdriver, or maybe some type of crowbar, phillips screwdriver, a wire brush, and a C-clamp. So after you lift your car up on jacks and remove the tire, next thing you're going to do, you're going to remove the 2 rotor screws, which are these 2. So you grab a phillips screwdriver, you might get a hammer, that's it. Now we're going to remove the 2 caliper bolts, which is this one right here and this one right here, with a 14mm socket. We take the bolts all the way out, and we grab on the caliper, we just pull and lift up, and we put it aside. Then after that we could start taking off our brakes. Next thing we want to do is push the piston all the way back into the caliper. So before we do that though, we need to take off the cap of the bleeder valve. Then we get a 10mm socket, loosen it. Make sure you have a pan on the bottom, because it is going to leak oil. So you grab your old brake pad, get a C-clamp, and just start tying it up until this C-clamp is flushed all the way in. That's it. After that, you gotta tighten back your bleeder valve. And don't forget to put dust cap back on. Just put it aside for a minute. So now we have to remove the control arm. So we need to remove this 19mm bolt or nut. So we grab our wrench, you might need something to hold the nut on the other side, or on this case the socket. So I'll grab my other wrench. After that, put your nut in just a little bit. Grab your hammer so you can push it out. flat screwdriver, hammering it in. As you can see, when you're pushing out the bolt is hitting the strut right here. So we need to grab a flat screwdriver right here and make some space so it won't hit at the same time while we hit the bolt out. And there's your bolt. After that, you get your hammer and you start hitting with the arm. Now we're going to remove the caliper bracket by removing two 12mm bolts, which is this one right here, and the one that was behind the control arm, which is back here. This job will be easier if you had a long 12mm socket. Then we just pull it up. Then we grab a rotor. Since we hit it at the beginning with the phillips screwdriver, it should be pretty easy to take out. Now we could take it to our local shop and have it resurfaced, like for $10 each. Next thing we want to do, we want to take all the rust that's around the hub out. We just get a wire brush and start cleaning it off. And this one looks pretty good because I already done that. Then we get our caliper bracket and we're going to do the same right here. Get the wire brush and just clean. Make sure all the rust is removed. If you have a lot of rust, you can need like a flat screwdriver or something to get it all out, but make sure it's all clean. And then after that, we can start putting the grease on. Now that the caliper bracket is clean, now we're going to apply some brake grease. First we're going to start off with the caliper slide pins. So we gotta take this off. Get some new brake grease. Then we just do the same to this side. Then after you do both sides, it's time to put our hardware on. So we're going to put grease right here. Put a little bit. And we grab our hardware and we push it in. Make sure it's pushed in there real good. Then we just grab a little bit more grease and we put some here too. Anywhere the brake pads are going to be touching metal, we put grease. Then we do the same to the other side. So I'm back with my rotor now. Just got it resurfaced at the auto shop. And as you can see, it looked brand new. The only difference is I paid $10 to get them resurfaced, and a brand new one would have cost me $50. So that's $40 saving. But before we put that on, we want to put some grease on the hub. So we'll just get some, put it here around. I already did that a little bit before. Then we need to look for our holes and align them to the screws where it's going to be. We'll just get our Phillips screwdriver with our screws. Now we're going to reinstall the caliper bracket with two 12mm bolts. So we'll put it here behind the arm. In case you're wondering, the torque spec for this will be 53 feet-pound. So now we're going to put the control arm back down. We use some channel locks to help. We can use some crowbar or some long type of screwdriver like this too. And just hammer it down. Once it looks like the holes are aligned, we could grab a screwdriver or something, put them in here, and just to make sure they're lined up so the bolt goes in there easy. Also, you remember when we took off the bolt was on this side and the nut was on this side. But to make it more easier, we're going to put the bolt on this side and the nut on the other side. Because if we want to do it like the way it was, we would have to put a cart jack to support the lower control arm. Then we would have to remove this 19mm bolt so we can slide the shock out of the way. But so we won't have to do all that. We'll just put the bolt on this side. So we'll just hammer it in. Grab the 19mm nut and put it on the other side. Make sure we have 119 on the other side. Now we're going to put our brakes. So remember, this part goes on the inside. So we're just going to slide it here in the slots. Grab our front one. It's going to go on these two slots. Now we're going to put our caliper, but before we do that, we're going to put grease anywhere that the brake pads are going to touch. So it's going to be here in the piston and right here on the inside. Put it here. We put our two 14mm bolts. And then we will torque that to 24 feet-pound. So that's it. All you gotta do next is just put on your tires with the 21mm socket, lower it to the ground. Very important, make sure you pump your brakes at least 5 times before you take it on a test drive, and then after that just check your oils, and that's it.